What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about his 1996 season, which I happen to believe is the best revenge season in NBA history. Now, in order to get revenge, there has to be some obstacle, some event, or some adversity to overcome, and that adversity for Michael Jordan, it came in the 1995 playoffs versus the Orlando Magic. And in case you need a quick refresher, here's a quick clip from that series.
All the world's a stage when your name is Michael Jordan, so the spotlight that shines brightly on your triumphs also burns intensely on your mistakes. On Sunday in Orlando, Jordan had more than a bit part during the closing scene in Game 1. So the Bulls up one. Michael's got the ball in his hands. Not any longer. Kenny to the former Bull, Horace Grant, Magic up by one.
Jordan still had a chance to deliver one of his patented buzzer beaters. Instead, he threw it away.
He dropped it. He dropped it out of bounds.
This just in. Michael Jordan is human. In crunch time, gives up a steal, throws the ball away, Bulls lose.
So that clip you just saw was from Game 1 of the 1995 playoffs versus the Orlando Magic. And in that Game 1, Michael Jordan, he flat out choked. And that is the one moment and the one play you can look to and say Jordan, he just did not come up big when it mattered most. And the Bulls, they were going to lose this series in 6 games. Now, usually after a player is eliminated from the playoffs or they win a championship, they take anywhere from a few weeks to a month off to rest their bodies from a grueling season. But for Michael Jordan, that was not the case, and he got back in the gym the very next day at 7 a.m. And also during this offseason, Michael Jordan, he was filming the movie Space Jam, and in order for him to keep his training regimen, he had Warner Brothers Studio build the iconic Jordan Dome on the Warner Brothers Studio lot. And this Jordan Dome, it included a full-length basketball court, as well as a locker room and a weight room. And it was a very popular spot for some legendary pickup games that featured some of the best players in the 90s. And Jordan says he actually used these pickup runs to scout his opponents for the very next season. So that shows his mindset that he was always looking for the edge, and he was always thinking about the upcoming season. Now, when the season did arrive, Jordan and the Bulls got off to an extremely hot start, going 42-5 before the All-Star break, and that included a 13-game win streak and an 18-game win streak, and Jordan was putting up his usual numbers on great efficiency. And when it comes to All-Star Weekend, not many players take the All-Star game very seriously, they just kind of go through the motions. But for Michael Jordan during this year, he had something to prove, not only to himself, but also to the young up-and-coming players in the league. And here's a quick clip from an interview that features Dr. J and Michael Jordan, where he talks about how he's not ready to take up his crown as the best player in the NBA.
They said there'd never be another Elgin Baylor. Then I came along. They said there'd never be another Dr. J. Then you came along. Who have you been sizing up for the torch passing?
If I look at the players today and who would take what either I've done, that I've taken from you and you've taken from Elgin Baylor and expanded it even further, Hardaway is a great pick because of versatility and the things that he can do with the ball, without the ball, defensively, you know, to make his surrounding players better. Everyone says Grant Hill. I think Grant Hill is very similar to you, to Scottie Pippen. You see the passing of the torch to the next generation, but I ain't ready to give him that yet.
So Jordan was definitely not ready to give up the crown as the best player in the world, and after the All-Star break, he would continue his dominance as the Bulls would go 30-5 in the second half of the season and finish with a 72-10 record, which at the time was the best record in NBA history. And that combination of individual success and team dominance, that would lead to Michael Jordan winning the 1996 MVP, where he received 109 out of 113 first-place votes, and he was only 4 votes away from being unanimous. He also was selected to the first-team All-Defense, as well as first-team All-NBA, and he led the NBA in scoring at 30.4 points per game, and no other player in the NBA averaged over 27 points per game. And I know you might be thinking 30.4 points per game, that seems kind of low for a player to win the scoring title, but let me just show you guys the perspective of why it was so impressive to average 30 points per game in the mid-90s. The fastest paced team in 1986 was the Boston Celtics at 96.2. The second slowest paced team in the NBA in 2020 is the Denver Nuggets at 97.2. The highest scoring team in 1996 was the Chicago Bulls at 105.2 points per game. The second lowest scoring team in the NBA today is the New York Knicks at 105.8 points per game. So I hope that provides some perspective to show how much more difficult it was to score in the mid-90s compared to today in 2020. Now, when the playoffs came around, Jordan and the Bulls' dominance, it would continue as they would breeze past the first 2 rounds, going 7-1 and beating the Miami Heat and New York Knicks by an average of 13.5 points per game. And this would set up the much anticipated rematch in the Eastern Conference Finals of the Chicago Bulls versus the Orlando Magic. In Game 1 of that series, it would not live up to the hype, as the Bulls, they would beat the Orlando Magic by 38 points. But in Game 2, the Magic, they would definitely bounce back, and at one point in the game, they actually led by 18 points, right after Michael Jordan scored 17 points in the third quarter and 8 points in the fourth quarter, and 35 for the game. He would lead the Bulls to a comeback victory, and they would take a commanding 2-0 lead over the Orlando Magic. Now, Game 3 was a do or die for Orlando, and they definitely couldn't go down 3-0, but unfortunately for them, it would be very similar to Game 1, as the Bulls would blow them out by 19 points, and this would set up a Game 4 in Orlando, with the Bulls having the opportunity to sweep the Orlando Magic. And with a golden opportunity to get revenge on the Magic, Michael Jordan, he would not disappoint, as for the game, he would have 45 points, including 15 points in the third quarter and 10 points in the fourth, to finish off the Magic and finally get his revenge for the choke he had in the 1995 playoffs. And entering the NBA Finals, the Bulls had an 11-1 record, and they were matched up against the 64-18 Seattle Supersonics. In this Sonics team, it featured Gary Payton, who was the Defensive Player of the Year, Shawn Kemp, who was an All-NBA member, and Detlef Schrempf, who was a 2-time Sixth Man of the Year winner. They also had solid role players like Hershey Hawkins, Sam Perkins, and Nate McMillan. But even with them being a very solid squad, the Sonics were the biggest underdog in NBA Finals history, and this is mainly due to how dominant Michael Jordan and the Bulls were. Entering the Finals, the Bulls had an 83-11 record, and it was really improbable to think about a team beating the Bulls 4 times in a series. Now, if you know anything about Michael Jordan, he's always looking for a mental edge or something to set him off so he plays better, and unfortunately for Seattle fans, George Karl, he accidentally set Michael Jordan off and made him more determined to beat the Sonics in the finals.
During the finals, we go out to dinner one night. George Karl's over on the other side, having dinner. Hey, there's George Karl over there. And George Karl does not come over and speak to him.
He walked right past me. And I look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're gonna play it.
You know, he just kind of went by, and I went, uh-oh, should have never done that.
You gonna do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
And during the first 3 games of this series, it was definitely evident of why the Bulls were heavy favorites. They won all 3 games by an average of 14 points, and MJ was doing normal MJ things, averaging 31-5-5 on very good efficiency. Now, after this Game 3, this is where the series kind of takes a turn, and Seattle actually shows some very good fight, as they would actually win Game 4 by 21 points, and Michael Jordan, he would have the lowest scoring finals game of his career, where he only scored 23 points on 31% from the field. And in Game 5, MJ, he would have a bounce back game, where he would have 26 points on 50% shooting, but in the fourth quarter, he would only have 2 points, and the Bulls would go on to lose by 11 points, sending the series back to Chicago. Now, once the series came back to Chicago, it was a very emotional day for Michael Jordan. Not only were the Bulls coming back to their hometown, it was also Father's Day, and his father had just passed away a few years prior, so it was a very emotional game. This was the first time Michael Jordan had been to the finals without his dad being there. And there were also some other compounding factors that made this Game 6 a very emotional and very difficult game. As you'll see in this pregame segment, Bob Costas talks about the multiple injuries the Bulls were dealing with, and why many people were starting to view Seattle as a legit title threat.
Problems may not be. Ron Harper, very effective in the first 2 games here in Chicago, was virtually a spectator in Seattle because of an ailing knee that will require surgery at season's end. With knee and especially ankle ailments, Scottie Pippen can't explode to the basket, so the defense lays back and dares him to hit from the outside. So far, he hasn't, shooting under 33% and just 6 for 32 from three-point range. Steve Kerr is healthy, but his jump shot isn't. Usually he thrives on the open shots created by the double teams on Michael Jordan. But in this series, he's been miserable from downtown. 3 for 20 from outside the arc. Tony Kukoc excelled early against Seattle, but in Game 5, he couldn't pick up much of the slack, shooting just 5 of 13. All of this leaves Seattle, an excellent defensive team to begin with, double and triple teaming Jordan with near impunity. In the fourth quarter of Game 5, the time Jordan usually takes over, he managed just 2 points. Keep in mind that Harper's absence means Jordan spends considerable stretches guarding Gary Payton, another drain on Jordan's energies as the Bulls, the league's oldest team, play their 100th game of the season tonight.
Now, Jordan in this Game 6, he definitely didn't play up to historically great Michael Jordan standards. He had 22, 9, and 7. He shot 5 for 19 from the field. But the Bulls would still go on to win by 12 points, and Michael Jordan, he would complete his revenge season and bring his 4th championship to the Chicago Bulls. Now, one thing I do want to address is the myth that in Games 4 through 6, Gary Payton locked down Michael Jordan, and that is flat out not true. I went back and I watched all these games, and I actually recorded every single time Jordan took a shot against Gary Payton, and the results, they were astounding. Jordan in Games 4 through 6, he had 27 points on 7 for 14 shooting when Gary Payton was on him. And you can go to this YouTube channel, Analog Indulgence, and watch these games in their entirety, and I actually time-stamped every single shot in all 3 of those games, so you can go back and you can verify this evidence for yourself. But I just wanted to debunk the myth that somehow Gary Payton, he single-handedly locked down Michael Jordan, and that is just flat out not true. And if you go back and watch those games, Jordan, he was getting double and triple teamed, and it definitely wasn't just one guy locking him down. Now, Jordan this series, he would still average 27, 5, and 4, and he would take home Finals MVP, and that stat line, for the majority of NBA players, that would be considered a great Finals performance, but for Michael Jordan standards, this was a lesser great Finals performance, and I think that shows how great a player he was and how high the standards were for him in the NBA Finals. And when you take a glance and look at the accomplishments Michael Jordan had during this 1996 season, it is absolutely astounding. He won the MVP, he was selected to First Team All-NBA and First Team All-Defense, he actually finished 6th in Defensive Player of the Year voting, he won the scoring title, he won the All-Star MVP, he was an NBA champion, a Finals MVP, he led his team to a 72-10 record, which at the time was the most wins in NBA history, and he also led the Bulls to a 15-3 playoff record. Now I think that right there, that is a super impressive resume. That's why I call Michael Jordan's 1996 season the best revenge season in NBA history. So that is the end of the video. I hope you guys like this topic. I hope you guys like all the in-depth information, the quick video clips I included, and I also wanted to say it was a huge accomplishment getting to 10,000 subscribers. That is a very important milestone, and I thank all you guys who have subscribed. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.